Medsafe has a place in the New Zealand healthcare system that's about making sure that the medicines that doctors prescribe and pharmacists dispense and patients get to take at the end of the day meet acceptable standards of safety, of quality of manufacture and efficacy, i.e. that they do what they say they do on the label. The end result of Medsafe's evaluation process is that patients and prescribers can be confident that the medicines they use or prescribe meet international standards for medicine and are of an acceptable risk and benefit profile that means they can be used safely and effectively to treat patients. The first stage in an application process for medicines is that the company has to come to us with a data set that sets out everything that they know about their medicine. That is an immense amount of paper and an immense amount of work. For most new medicines that come along, we're talking about half a metric ton of paper, 400,000 pages of supporting documentation. And the first step that Medsafe has to do is we have to assess that to see that it measures up against international standards for safety, for quality and for effectiveness. Safety is a big part of what we do at Medsafe, and we come at it from a position that there is no such thing as a totally safe medicine. That all medicines will have side effects, all medicines will have risks and all medicines will have benefits. And our job in looking at safety is to try to make sure that the balance of risk and benefits is always on the benefit side of the equation. Safety though breaks down into lots of things. What is the substance that's in the medicine? Is it toxic? At what doses it's toxic? How does that work? How have the company explored this in its clinical trials? Are they able to make the medicine consistently so that it always has the same substance in it, has an impact on its safety? And then lastly, a big part of our work is looking at how safe is this when it's used to treat a particular illness, and what is the side effect profile? And that's a big and large and complex part of our job. Quality of pharmaceuticals is really important because when we look at them as individuals, we can't tell the difference between a low quality tablet and a high quality tablet just by looking at the tablet. So as part of Medsafe's assessment process, we look at the information and the quality systems that the company has in place to make sure that it consistently delivers the same product with the same ingredients every time a product enters the market, and that product in effect can be guaranteed to meet what it says on the label for the contents of the pack. Efficacy is an unusual term, and it's really about telling us what the initial clinical trials have shown about the medicine, and that efficacy is about a measure of how well a medicine worked in a highly selected and narrow group of patients who were exposed to it in a trial. What we know from clinical research over the years is that when a medicine enters the market, it's been round about 10,000 people have been exposed to that medicine. And that gives us a degree of confidence about the risks and benefits, but it doesn't give us all the information about the safety of the medicine and its side effect profile, which would be its risks, and it doesn't tell us everything about its benefits either, how well it works in the real world. So Medsafe's role is to make an assessment of those risks and benefits based on a limited data set before it enters the market, and then we spend a great deal of time and effort monitoring the safety of the medicine after it's on the market to see if new side effects are becoming apparent, or to see if the promise of how well the medicine worked in the clinical trials is not stacking up in the real world, and that is changing the balance between risk and benefit for the product. The New Zealand market is so small that some companies simply choose never to market their medicine in New Zealand. If a patient comes across something that they believe might be a useful treatment for them, they should certainly be talking to their doctor about this, because there are systems and processes that Medsafe applies that may encourage a company to enter the market. Ultimately, a decision about what is the best treatment for a patient has to be made by the prescriber, by the patient's doctor, and the patient themselves, and that they need to discuss what's available locally, what's available internationally, what are the risks and benefits of using these medicines and what are the costs before both parties come to a conclusion, a decision on what is the best treatment for that patient. If the best treatment is determined to be a medicine that isn't routinely available in New Zealand, there are ways to obtain that medicine directly from the manufacturers overseas. Medsafe's role with respect to medicines in New Zealand is actually about providing a framework for confidence by the prescriber, by pharmacists, by doctors, by patients, that the medicines that patients use in New Zealand reach an acceptable quality standard, are safe and are as effective as they can be, given that there are always risks and benefits with any medicine, and that we can be confident that the medicines that we take in New Zealand are really reaching the same standards as medicines available in any of the countries we might visit in holiday and where there are high quality systems in place, such as in Europe, the Americas or Australia. That role will continue into the future, and I think the challenge that we face at Medsafe is about managing increasingly complex medicines, and the way that we're trying to approach that risk is by working more closely with other regulators, the Australian Therapeutic Goods Administration in particular, as being our closest partner, who we apply the same rules, we have very similar markets, we have very similar medicines in each market, and we think that there's a lot of advantage in our two organisations working more closely together to make sure that patients have timely access to high quality medicines that have acceptable risks and benefits.